For nearly a century, fingerprints have been the gold standard of forensic science, and for good reason. Fingerprints are one of the earliest features to develop inside the womb. The pressure of amniotic fluid across the surface of the hands and the growth rate of the fingers influences the formation of patterns on the fingertips. And with so many factors in play, everyone's prints are unique, even those of identical twins. Fingerprints lock in at about the 24th week of development. And while this pattern of hills and valleys grows over time, the shape itself stays the same from cradle to grave. While that consistency has made fingerprints a key tool for law enforcement, their actual evolutionary purpose is far more basic: to help us grab objects.
The function they serve is so we can pick up things. The friction of the three-dimensional ridges enables us to easily pick things up.
And when these bumpy ridges on our fingers make contact with something, they leave a lasting impression. Fingerprints have fascinated people for centuries. As early as the year 220 BC, the ancient Chinese used fingerprints to sign legal documents, without realizing how individual these marks truly were. That breakthrough wouldn't come for more than 1,000 years. In 1684, English physician Nehemiah Grew published the first scientific analysis of the ridges that appear in the fingers and palms. 100 years later, in 1788, the German anatomist Johann Meyer went one step further, declaring that no two people have the same fingerprints. But it wasn't until the late 19th century that the science of fingerprints would play a central role in a criminal investigation for the very first time.
Fingerprints, all amazingly unique. No two people in the world have exactly the same placement of ridge details, even identical twins. And prints are permanent. Unless altered through scarring, fingerprints stay the same from birth through death. They are the keys to a person's identity. This is where AFIS comes in, the Regional Automated Fingerprint Identification System, a database of more than 600,000 print records from all of the region's police agencies, with more coming in every day.
Quality of prints, we want to make sure we get the best quality possible.
Each of King County's regional detention facilities relies on a special team of ID techs to record the prints.
With every inmate that comes in, they need to be fingerprinted and photographed. We're 24/7. Of course. There's usually 4 to 5 people on a shift.
An electronic live scan has replaced the old, outdated ink print system. Information is now uploaded in moments instead of days.
Well, a live scan is simply a computer with a glass platen. We roll the fingerprints onto the glass platen, and the prints are electronically submitted to our APHIS database.
APHIS uses the unique arrangement of ridge characteristics on a print to compare them to the thousands of others on file. The computer produces a list of possible matches within minutes.
Maybe this short ridge that kind of splits in two actually looks a little bit like a wrench. I see that same feature there.
The computer may narrow down the search, but it's a trained 10-print examiner that carefully compares them and determines a match.
We have to be absolutely certain because a person's life could be riding on the decision we make as to their identity. Actually, a very short ridge there, same thing there. And so it's a hit.
We can get a response back to the operator, the live scan operator, within minutes in a lot of cases.
Fast information that can be critical to an officer on the street or to a jail's intake center.
So we fingerprint someone, and he comes back as a convicted felon who is known to assault officers. That helps these guys out so they can, watch him accordingly and handle him accordingly also.
The 10-print unit cross-checks the information with the courts and prosecutor's office, including any new aliases before sending it to the State Patrol and FBI.
What we're trying to do is make sure all the information is correct on our booking assignment sheet before we go ahead and send it off to the state, who will take the information, update the person's rap sheet or their criminal history.
It's that kind of information that officers like Patrolman Brendan Caron rely on every day. In the spring of 2009, he and his team arrested one 22-year-old Terrell Yarborough in Tukwila.
He gave us several different names, several different dates of birth, which we call that the name game.
Yarborough's prints were sent to APHIS. Examiner Eva Hess was working the swing shift. She couldn't match the prints to anyone in the regional system.
We always go the extra step and fax the FBI to make sure that we're covering our bases.
A while later, we got a phone call from APHIS of who he really was and the fact that he had a homicide warrant out of Detroit.
They got a hit and found out he was wanted for a homicide and murder and attempted murder, armed robbery, and home invasion.
I believe our department got a phone call soon after that from the homicide investigator in Detroit. Couldn't believe that this guy was in custody and said under no conditions did you let him go. So they were very excited that we'd caught him.
The ability to quickly verify someone's identity with fingerprints and share that information, that's what makes the difference.
If somebody's lying about who they are, our unit is pretty good at identifying them and letting whatever agency needs to know.
I've been doing this for almost 25 years, and back in the day when you had to dig through cards or just assume a person was who they said they were, it made your job very, very difficult. We used to have to take fingerprints, mail them off to the FBI, get them back, and then you get your hit, 3 weeks later. That does you no good.
But not all new prints find a match. If the prints don't match any records in the database, they're given a new APHIS number and compared with the more than 30,000 unidentified prints from unsolved crimes. By checking each new arrest against the database, examiners often identify suspects in many unsolved crimes. ID techs and 10-print examiners also help identify patients at Harborview Medical Center by fingerprinting them and searching the prints through APHIS. And they work with the medical examiner's office to identify deceased persons.
We handle not only King County Sheriff's Office and its contract cities' fingerprint work, but also Seattle Police Department receives funding from this program, and we handle the suburban cities' fingerprint work too. So it really is all-inclusive King County.
King County's APHIS section working 24/7 behind the scenes to uncover the truth, solve crimes, and keep our communities safe.
Fingerprint is a tool that's been used to solve crime for centuries. By using a person's fingerprints, or more importantly, their minutia, crimes are solved daily. Therefore, we've decided to teach you the proper way to take fingerprints. This is the most accurate and up-to-date method that is used by law enforcement and government officials every day. Welcome to CrimeScene.com. To begin, you should prep the station. Set the card so that the first row of boxes are available. These boxes should be for the right hand. When fingerprinting, always begin with the right hand, starting with the thumb. It's important to remember that the subject doesn't help at all, and the practitioner moves the subject's hands for them to ensure even prints. When printing, thumbs always roll towards the body from the point of most to least resistance. This is repeated on the card. When rolling fingers, however, roll them away from the body, exactly opposite of the thumbs. The practitioner must take the prints carefully for each finger. The utmost detail must be able to be seen for the optimum identification. Try to get the least amount of smudges by moving in a steady pace with an even amount of pressure. Make sure that between hands, the subject has time to clean their fingers. This keeps the workplace, as well as the subject, clean. Now, while these two move on to the left hand, I'm going to take some time to explain the little details of fingerprinting to you. As I said earlier, fingerprints all rely on a person's minutia, which are specific points on a print. There are two main minutia. The first one is ridge endings, which is where a ridge on your finger ends. And the second is a bifurcation, which is where a ridge splits into two separate ridges. The amount and location of these minutiae are unique to each person, and computers can compare their location on your fingers to any other print in the system, giving a completely unique identification to you. Now let's get back to the girls and see their progress on the left hand. Oops, it looks like we made a small mistake here. This is where retabs come into play. Retabs are small squares of white paper that you can relay over your card so you can retake the print. They're there to use in case you make any mistakes, so don't be afraid to use them. However, if you use more than two, there is the possibility that your card will be rejected, so be careful. The last part of fingerprinting is the plain impressions. These are most likely the impressions that you're used to seeing. You simply lay your finger flat down on the card. But once again, always start with the right hand and the right thumb. Simply ink the thumb and place it down the card. However, for the fingers, make sure that you lay all four fingers at the same time. For most adult males, you might have to turn the fingers slightly when placing them on the card so they fit fully inside the square. And that's it. You've completed your first official fingerprint card. Congratulations. If you have any questions, email us at the website or give us a call. Thanks, and have a